Welcome to the CGA-IGC podcast series, brought to you by the CGA-IGC Education Committee and made possible through the generous support of our sponsor, LS Cancer Diag. Each episode aims to bring you an in-depth discussion related to emerging data, clinical challenges, and unique perspectives in the world of hereditary GI cancers. Before we start, we'd like to remind you that the content of this podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and the content reflects expert opinion at the time of recording. Keep listening to find out more about this episode's host, guest, and feature topic, and be sure to learn more about our sponsor at lscancerdiag.com.
Today, we're talking to Danielle Ripley-Burgess, a 3-time colon cancer survivor with Lynch Syndrome. Many of you may recognize her name from a talk she gave at the 2023 CGA-IGC annual conference in Las Vegas. Danielle is an award-winning communications professional who has authored books and regularly blogs about her experiences as a cancer survivor. She serves as the chief storyteller at Fight CRC. Fight CRC and CGA-IGC work together to amplify the patient voice and improve the lives of those with hereditary colorectal cancer syndromes through advocacy, communication, education, and research partnerships. Danielle was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer at 17 when she was a junior in high school. 8 years later, at age 25, she underwent subtotal colectomy because of several concerning polyps, one of which was found to be stage 1 colon cancer at surgery. Genetic testing identified a variant in MLH1 that was eventually proven to be pathogenic. Because of her Lynch syndrome diagnosis, she underwent a prophylactic hysterectomy at 28. Earlier this year, Danielle underwent a proctocolectomy with a permanent ileostomy. After this surgery, she was informed by her team that a 3rd early-stage colon cancer was incidentally detected during this procedure. Thankfully, it was completely removed and she did not require additional treatment. Her decision to undergo proctocolectomy came after years of struggles with proctitis and LARS, or lower anterior resection syndrome, caused by the radiation she had in her late teens. We are grateful that Danielle has agreed to talk to us about her experience, including how she eventually arrived at the decision for proctocolectomy, what she did to prepare herself for the surgery, her experiences as a first-time ostomate and living with a permanent ostomy, as well as her advice for others considering this procedure.
Thank you, Emma. I'm Dr. Thomas Slavin. Welcome to the CGA podcast. So fortunate to have you here. That was a fantastic background about your story. You've really had a lot of experience with not only Lynch syndrome, but the experiences that go along with all the surgeries. And that's what we really wanted to focus in on today. Can you please tell us a little bit about your surgical experience and elaborate a little bit about what Emma was discussing?
Yeah, I'm probably a surgery veteran over the past 2 decades, and surgery in 2023 is very different than it was in 2001. So like she said, I had my first major surgery in 2001. I was a junior in high school, 17. It was an open surgery that removed a cancerous tumor from my colon that ended up being stage 3. And I don't know, maybe it's because I was so young. I healed up fairly quickly, but it was the open surgery and it just removed a section of colon. My second major surgery was what we thought was preventive, trying to avoid a cancer with the subtotal colectomy. Didn't pan out that way. We found out after the surgery that it actually was taking out cancer, but that one was more minimally invasive. So we thought that would be ideal. That's how we went in. Mm-hmm. And it didn't have the big open scar at first. However, I had complications after that surgery. And to figure out what was going on after about a week in the hospital, they ended up having to open me up again. So that was a bummer. My hysterectomy, they used the scar. So by now I haven't, I'm already scarred up. So open surgery for the hysterectomy to remove those organs. But then this past year, we did the robotic surgery successfully. And I will say a big difference in robotic surgery versus open and even the minimally invasive. It was a long surgery, but by the time I did kind of get over the hump, I could tell a big difference. Just I bounced back quicker, less soreness, less pain. So I'm a fan. I feel like I've had almost every type of surgery, abdominal surgery.
Yeah. And were there differences between your thought process for surgeries that were urgently needed to take care of something and your prophylactic total abdominal hysterectomy?
Yeah, definitely. I The one that I would say felt the most urgently needed was obviously after I'd been told I had cancer as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Very little time to think it through. Situation plus age made it just a whole different ballgame. Whereas the others have been more my choice, where the doctors presented it as, hey, we recommend this. We recommend you go through with this, consider this. Here's some pros and cons, but ultimately it's up to you. I'll say this latest one this year, while it was still presented as my choice after the colonoscopy, I could tell they really thought that's what I needed to do. And so in my mind, it was less of a choice. And as my symptoms have progressed over the past few years, I kind of in my head knew this was coming. So it was not as a matter of if, but when. But going into these surgeries that are seen as almost elective definitely gives me more time to process it and get ready as a patient, for sure.
Yeah. And you had an ostomy placed as well. Why did you choose to have an ostomy? Was it quality of life or pouch complications?
So, yeah, I just elected for the ileostomy this year. Having radiation 22 years ago, in radiation, the symptoms catch up to you over the years, which surprised me. So about 10 years ago, I started having a lot of issues and problems, LARS, proctitis, fissures, a lot of pain, and it just wouldn't seem to get better. I'm not yet 40. I kind of knew this was coming. I couldn't envision a long life where this was going to work without having my full colon out. So it was quality of life, but then I think also having Lynch syndrome and knowing that even though they had taken so much of my colon out and there was less to monitor, knowing I have Lynch and going every year for a colonoscopy and having something come from 0 to this is concerning, it might be cancer in 1 year, and then the recommendation to come back in 3 to 6 months for another colonoscopy, I just couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I just didn't want a life where I was having that procedure that often. So that's part of what went into my decision to just go ahead and get the ileostomy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't realize until after I got it how much really stress I carried of the potential of another cancer occurrence. Because I think after this latest surgery, when I got through it, even though I got the news I never want to hear again, like, yep, it was cancer.
Yeah.
The relief that I will never hear I have colorectal cancer ever again was something I didn't anticipate before surgery, but my goodness, it is huge. Now with Lynch, I'm not totally breathing easy because there's other cancers involved. So eyes wide open that my cancer risk isn't removed. But the thought that I will never hear that again after hearing it 3 times, has been really nice.
Do you feel like it was always in the back of your head on most days?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always. What happens when you get diagnosed with cancer is before that, you have a headache and you start at concerning and then you go to the worst concerning. So you go from a headache, I haven't had coffee today, to what's the headache? Oh, it's a brain tumor. Like that's how most people get to live their lives. Once you've been diagnosed with cancer, that whole thing flips.
Right.
So I have a headache. Is it a brain tumor?
Yeah.
And then you whittle down to, oh, I just haven't had coffee. And that's what your mind does every single day after you've been diagnosed with cancer. You think the worst could be it, and then you're relieved when it's something minor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what I've been even retooling in my head now that I have an entire organ that's gone, because I don't have to think like that anymore, but it's very much ingrained in me.
Thank you for sharing that. And how has your pre-surgical experience really changed over the different surgeries? I mean, you said obviously you've had these over a span of your life. Some of it is age experience and probably knowing more and things like that. How has that changed in each of these major surgeries?
I think with each one, I've learned better questions to ask, to prepare, to ask my surgeon, to know how to get a lot of doctors on my team connected, realizing that if I go out of the health system, for me, I've quarterbacked my care for 20 years. So I have some doctors who are in one system, and then across town, I have another doctor in another. So I've learned I have to be the one to kind of connect the dots, and that's part of being a patient advocate. I've also learned this past go around, I started some therapy before surgery, which was really helpful because in my past surgeries, I would go in for the surgery and I'd be so focused on surgery prep that I knew to do. So rearranging my home or shopping list or arranging transportation and childcare, like all of that kind of stuff, which is part of it. But this past time, I knew from the past that the body and the mind and the emotions aren't disconnected from one another. And so when somebody comes in and cuts on you and takes out an organ, it does something to your heart and your soul. So doing some of that work before surgery, I think helped me take some of the hits and the complications of surgery. And then afterwards, it hasn't been as hard of a recovery mentally because I did a lot of that pre-work.
Yeah. And how's your family weighed in? Your family obviously changed a lot from the time you were 17 to now. I would assume that brings in a lot of different dynamics and things into the whole pre-surgical and the surgical process in general in the recovery.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my parents have been the constant. And actually, the guy I was dating at 16, 17 is now my husband. So those three have been a trio of consistency, which is pretty amazing. Definitely different, though. I'm a mom now. So at 17, all I had to worry about was algebra and prom. And now I have many other things to worry about. So it has been really different. I could not have gotten through this past surgery, though, without my support system. So my family's been huge. They know how it goes and what to expect and take off work and line up meals and drive me places and childcare. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you prep your children?
I tried. Yeah. One of them can understand, kind of comprehend. One of them can't, just due to age. So as much as I could, it's a balance of knowing where they are. And I want to be open with them, but I don't want to throw in a trauma trigger for them unnecessarily. So it's been a day by day process of what they need to know, what I should share, and then what I should hold back.
Did you have any challenges with any of your surgeries? You brought up cancer being found in the most recent.
Yeah, that's happened twice now where I go in thinking we're trying to prevent cancer and take this big step and do this major surgery to stop cancer in its tracks and end up, we didn't stop it soon enough. I have had a gamut of surgery complications. This past one, I had an ileus right after I got home from the surgery. So I went back into the hospital for about 9 days, which was horrible. I've had the adhesions, my second major colon surgery, they had to go back and open me up. So I've had a lot of that, the extended hospital stays where you hope and think it's just going to be the 3 to 4 days. And for me, it ends up being 10. So yeah, I've had my share of that.
Yeah. And when they tell you had cancer after the surgery that you didn't know ahead of time, I mean, what are the thoughts going through your head at that point?
I will say it's been different this last time compared to the first time. The first time that happened, I was 25. I had been 7 or 8 years cancer-free since my first diagnosis. I didn't have any symptoms. Getting cancer again was nowhere on my radar. I thought it was a fluke. And that one triggered quite a bit. Anger, fear, sadness, all the negative emotions. After my second one, that's when talks of genetics came into play at that time. So I had been a variant of unknown significance on round 1. So round 2, they send everything again, retest. Surely this gal's, she's just 25. This is her second colon cancer. She has to have a hereditary syndrome. Send it all in again. No variant of unknown significance, which was disappointing because at that point, I had to start accepting this was my life and the days of, I had cancer in high school, but I'm over it. It's a thing of my past.
There's this
that went away. Thing. When I had a second occurrence, that whole cancer is a thing. My past was gone. And even though I hadn't yet been declared a Lynch syndrome patient, I started being treated as a hereditary cancer patient, frequent scans, more surgeries. So that was hard. That was one of the darkest times of my life. I think, though, I did the work and got through it. And so this past year, when basically the same thing happened again, I was disappointed and sad, but I was also able to look at the past and make a choice and say, okay, I'm going to choose how I handle this. If I could choose and go back and kind of have this victim mentality and this poor thing happened to me again, and I just got cancer a third time, or I can choose to be like, well, at least we got it early. At least it was robotic and I'm bouncing back. And I have had to make active choices of how I see it. It's kind of a mental game, but I haven't really gone back into those dark days like the first time it hit.
Yeah. And did you need any follow-up with those surgeries after they found the cancer? Was there any need to go back in or start chemotherapy or any other treatment, radiation?
No chemo, no radiation. This latest one did put me back with an oncologist. So I have to go back to oncology and do CT scans and labs every 6 months, which has taken a big thing to kind of accept when I've been out of this again for so long. Like, seriously, I have to go to an oncologist again. But again, it's like, I have a moment where I'm like, this really sucks. I can't believe I have to do this again. And then I have a moment where I'm like, okay, but at least I'm not doing chemo right now. At least we caught it early. So I'm having to do a lot of the mind game of how I choose to see it.
Yeah. For those out there that are listening that are needing to have a surgery to treat a current cancer and are getting ready, or looking at prophylactic similar surgeries like you that are also needed to prevent cancer, are there any things that you learned from your experiences that you think no one actually mentioned to you or might be unexpected that you can share and help guide some of these people?
Depends on what kind of surgery they're having. I can only speak to a couple with these colon surgeries and hysterectomy for the ladies. I will tell ladies, if you are getting hysterectomy specifically, anything with your reproductive organs, to be prepared for the emotional wave that's going to hit you. Even if you didn't want kids afterwards, I can't explain it, but that caught me by surprise. It was like such a big thing. And unlike removing my colon where we can reroute it and find another way to rally, something about removing your reproductive organs and the finality of it, it kind of forces you to even think about, like, my life is finite. Like, this will never change. Like, I will never be able to do this again. I will never be able to change my mind. And it's bone shaking a little bit. I did not expect that. I had all the knowledge. I should do this. This is why I have this genetic syndrome. This makes sense. I'm not going to have biological kid. Like, I had accepted all of it. I did not expect that at all. I would tell gals heading into that. And then lesson learned from this past one, I was very humbled because I thought I knew. I thought I remembered. I was like, I'm a surgery pro. This is not my first rodeo. But it has been several years since I've had a major surgery. And I forgot it's called major surgery for a reason. And I was hoping that I would be the case where it was just a few days in the hospital and it was just like a 2-week recovery. And then I would get back to life and it's like it hardly ever happened. And that was not the case for me. And it was more involved than I hoped. And I was out longer than I hoped. And so it's just this reminder, like, really plan to put your life on hold if you have to have major surgery. And I always tell patients, like, add a few days and weeks to what the doctors tell you for recovery. Yeah. You might be the rare bird that you fit within that typical window or even shorter, but I've never experienced it personally.
And is there any advice for dealing with mental health or like effects on your family that you've experienced? I know it sounded like you definitely went through when you brought up, put in the work so that the next wasn't as mentally taxing. What kind of work were you working on, I guess? So this is a trauma. And that word is not used, I think, enough in cancer world. There's so many other words we use, but to be diagnosed with a genetic syndrome, whether or not it's produced cancer or not, is traumatic. To be diagnosed with cancer is traumatic. To go through surgery is traumatic. So when you think about trauma and getting through trauma, it takes therapy. It takes identifying how you're feeling and the impact on your life. It takes a lot of weeding through, like how self-reflection, self-awareness, and different people do that differently. There's tons of tools out there. But really, it's in addition to all the appointments you have to go through, all the stuff you have to read, and all the stuff you have to do, it's creating just as much time for the mental health side of things and almost scheduling it like, okay, I have my chemo appointment and I have my therapy appointment. Like, I have my radiation and I have my massage therapy. And it's being very diligent and intentional to set aside time to address your mental health and the impact it's having on you and your family, what you need emotionally, because cancer is just as much of an emotional thing as it is a physical thing. And I think that's the patient community's screaming that. I think there's been some progress over 20 years where I think we feel like providers are starting to hear it. But I think we keep on the mental health drumbeat and we're hitting it pretty hard because it's really hard to go through this stuff physically and emotionally. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can only imagine. And any advice for how to prepare family members?
Therapy, talk about it. There's books. There's some good books out there. There's groups that connect, like if you have younger kids, there's groups that connect kids whose parents are going through
That's a good point.
cancer or illness. There's free camps for them. There's a wealth of resource out there. The resources aren't what's lacking. It's just probably people knowing they're there and finding them.
Right.
And just talk about it. I think I could talk about my daughter. She's my oldest. She turns 13-year-old. We adopted her when she was 4 months. And so all she's ever known is a mom who had survived cancer. And since she was itty bitty, like she's been seeing me in the hospital, and we do call in Congress at Fight CRC. So I brought her to DC one year. And so as much as it makes sense, I expose her to this. So it's not this hidden thing like, oh, mom's going to go off and do this thing. And when she's old enough, I'll explain it. Like I've included her along the way as much as I can, so she understands what I am having to do, but also so she feels the freedom to unpack it herself one day. Like, what has it been like growing up with a mom who survived cancer and has surgery a lot? And hopefully I'm setting an example for her where she feels like she could talk about it freely and openly.
What about weight loss? Did you suffer a lot of weight loss, especially with the most recent?
The most recent I did, I've gained it all back, but I didn't eat for about 2 weeks. So I think I dropped 15 to 20 pounds, like within a month of surgery with the ileostomy. And now I'm kind of on the other end where now I'm learning I can eat again, and quality of life's improved so much. Now I can eat stuff like I thought I would never eat again ever. So it's like giving that back to me. But then I'm like, wait, it's like hamburgers and French fries and milkshakes. Now I can eat them and not be miserable. But now I'm like, I got to really watch this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think again, it's different for everybody. I definitely have lost weight with my surgeries, but it hasn't been a long-term side effect.
Yeah. And so now you're following up with oncology. Are you still undergoing other screening?
Yes, I'm still kind of figuring out what that is, but the annual colonoscopies obviously have dropped off, but I'm still I think I still need upper scopes, urine. Honestly, I'm still asking my doctors, what do I need now? Again, it's me quarterbacking my care. Like, who's keeping track of this now? I'm a Lynch patient. I'm on my 3rd cancer surgery, and the protocols for what was the follow-up care have changed now that I have an organ gone. I feel really fortunate. I do have a survivorship clinic in town at KU. And so I do have a great doctor, nurse navigator who helped me with this. So that's my next step. I'll see them pretty soon, and they'll help me probably navigate, okay, here's what I need to do next.
Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on and sharing the story around your surgeries. I mean, really just incredible and great teachings for those out there that might be about to go through the same thing or contemplating prophylactic surgeries to make sure they keep themselves cancer-free. So really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can read more about Danielle's story at danielleripleyburgess.com. To learn more about the patient experience with surgery in the setting of a hereditary cancer predisposition, we encourage you to check out our previous podcast on prophylactic gastrectomy in hereditary diffuse gastric cancer patients on June 20th, 2023, and our webinar about the surgical experience of familial adenomatous polyposis patients on August 24th, 2023.